good morning. My name is Sybil. We've put together a video that breaks down just some very basic components of really starting your body in a way that reconnects it to some of its more pure movements or more of its simpler ranges of motion in a nice, simple way. So we start on the ground and we work through a series through the legs and hips, and then roll over onto our side and do some rotation and arm work. Then we put it all together, stand up, and put together a small vertical movement. So it's part of my very early morning practice, and as I said, it's just a snapshot. It could be a little bit more than this, and it also could morph into then going into a deeper, more intuitive flow of the classic standing asanas. So enjoy. Starting on our backs, we roll one leg out wide and back in. So you can see when I'm moving, it's really simple, just one leg in and back out. The other side of the pelvis is laying fairly quiet. The ribs are laying quiet, and there's very little movement other than at the hip joint. Taking the leg in a rotated position and hooked across the other leg, we roll the leg in and out. Similar, but now we're working a little bit more internal rotation and external rotation. And again, you can see that my rib cage lays pretty quiet. Maybe there's a little bit of movement in my waist, but the pelvis is level to the ground and it's laying flat. I then lift the leg up and flex the foot strongly, being active through the whole leg, and then I see how much range I have out wide, and then eventually I'll take it across the midline as well. So there's a range going all the way out, abduction, and adduction going across. Pelvis lays quiet. You can see my opposite leg stays still and quiet. And the key part is where I have my fingers, that I'm not shortening at my waist. There's a lots of space between my hip and my rib cage. And there's a bit of movement just as I move the leg. Full flexion in the hip joint, flattening the back, and then remaining flat. My hands there are showing you that there's a small amount of tone, just keeping the low back flat. Pushing down with the heel, there is a strong sense of pushing against something so that it's active to the back of the body, the back leg. And you can see that my leg's going down a little bit further each time. No real end goal. You don't have to go all the way to the floor. We're just looking to activate and really use the gluteal muscle and the hamstring. Now we're going to elongate the front of the hip socket. And you can see that I brought the heel in closer. I'm doing that so I can focus on the leg bone, the femur bone, pushing out towards the wall in front of me, and then hinging at the hip and coming down. So I use the leg bone to really elongate the muscle and then let the muscle relax. I finish up with just a movement using both legs, going in and out into a butterfly pose. Again, not using momentum, not going to the full range of motion, just bringing it nice and strong out and strong on the way back in. Grabbing the blanket and placing it underneath my head, I lay on the side and making sure the blanket is comfortable at my neck. Arms stack, top arm comes up. Let the shoulder blade lay onto the body, and then the rotation starts at the waist. You can see the fabric in my shirt rotating from my waist. Very little is happening in the rest of the trunk of my body. Arm comes up, sliding through the obliques, through the waist, through the ribs, and rolling open. Quiet through the hips. I've got a little slide in my knees, but as best you can, keeping your knees stacked. The nose stays in line with the midline, and you let your body twist in a nice even way. Now here are the arms going up and down. As long as there's no pinching or discomfort, the arm comes next to the head. Roll open in the same way, and then continue with a nice stretched out arc through the arm. We're looking for a smooth ride as you move that arm. If there's any glitches or uncomfortable or sticky spots, make your circle higher to the ceiling. So mine's pretty wide open to the floor. Not necessary. If you want to take a higher, smaller circle to really get a smooth and gentle movement through the shoulder blade, that would be great. Fantastic. Here we are in standing. We drop one foot back. Here I'm practicing swiveling my leg bone in my hip socket. So heel straight back, up on the toes, angle the heel down a little bit and back. The aim is to stay really quiet in the hips so that leg bone gets that benefit of that internal and external rotation, so that when we come into Warrior One, we can do so and keep our hips square to the front edge of the mat. Arms are lifting and lowering, seeing that we've got a range of motion, that the arm bones can move, the shoulder blades can slide, and you're watching that my ribs are staying quiet, my spine is quiet. So the movement pretty much is all coming from that shoulder joint. I'm starting to bend my elbows a tiny bit, and we want to make sure that the elbows stay straight. So here my hands again are showing that we're staying quiet between the ribs and the hips. Now we're lifting the hips over the leg bone. So you can see me moving there. Now I'm moving the pelvis over the legs. When we were on the ground, we were quiet in our pelvis and moving our legs, right? So we're getting some similar movement patterns, but we're doing it now from the pelvis. Beautiful. We're going to open ourselves up, I think, now into Warrior Two. So then take a really conservative Warrior Two position. Roll the forward leg out and let your pelvis be level to the horizon. And then again, here come the rotation. You can see again, I'm rotating from the waist. If you watch my fabric, my hips are staying still, and the rotation is coming from the waist through the ribs. Everything's staying neutral, and I'm able to begin to get myself all the way square towards the front, which is helpful when we come to this next move, which is Archer's Bow. I square my chest, pull that one shoulder back, level up my arms, and then pull back as if pulling an Archer's Bow, rotating through the trunk, doing the arm sweep all the way up and around, and repeating. Opening up, rotating from the trunk as we rotate the arm as well. The legs are strong, so you're engaging through the legs, you're lifting up through the arches of the feet, you feel strong and powerful through the legs, and letting the trunk of the body really find that supple movement. Side angle pose, I widen out the stance, give myself a wider stance, and I practice first a couple of times of just hinging here at the hip socket. Again, the fingers show the quiet, even tempo of movement of the ribs and the pelvis, and then top arm up and lower arm down. You'll watch that as my lower arm comes onto my inner leg, I can leverage just a tiny bit more opening from palm to palm. Yeah, but again, the movement's pretty clean. It's coming from the hips and a little bit at the waist, but pretty clean. Here you can just finish up with either some cat and cows here, or what I did here was a little twisting in my upper back, right? So I just did a little bit of rotation through the upper back, coming up and coming down, and finishing up. And then you would proceed as you would like to proceed with your day or a deeper yoga practice. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me. When you look at the aerial view, you have a better visual of seeing how when the hips and knees are stacked, again, the rotation is coming from the waist, and that the arm is staying in tempo with that movement. So the arm is not dropping back faster than the tempo of how I am moving through the spine and the rib cage. I'm moving in tandem, right? And I think then here we have an example of one done a little incorrectly. So the arm comes up here, there. See how the rib cage is lifting up off the floor and hiking up to the sky, and then the arm is continuing to go all the way to the floor and putting a lot of strain across that front of the chest and through the armpit. So we'll do it again. The arm is coming up, good there, but then the movement's lifting up by the ribs coming up to the ceiling, and then you can see that that arm keeps drifting down to the floor, and there's a big difference there of the strain that comes through the front of the chest. Fantastic. So those are some of the things you can watch out for. Really stay, the word I use is congruent, stay in tempo, stay as smooth and as easy as you can in these moves. But I really enjoy dialing back to what would be almost hardly any movement, and then building the movement slowly and feeling the ease remaining in the body, and getting the body to inform me what is up, like what's happening, what's going on. And the sensation of feeling where the nuances of my body taking on stress or tension or discomfort or overwork or overload becomes very apparent fairly quickly in my practice. Then I can self-correct and self-adjust, whether it's in my physical body, my spiritual body, my emotional body, prana body, my knowledge, my thinking, my perspective, right? And often it's just my perspective towards what's going on in my life. And then I come back the next morning and things are feeling much more, again, smooth or congruent.